Good morning, gorgeous. Yes, you. I am so glad you are back with me this morning. Before we get into today's conversation, take a breath and come back to yourself. Whether this morning found you walking, driving, getting ready, sitting down, or trying to gather your thoughts before the day starts asking for pieces of you, I am glad you are here with me. Today, I want to build from where we were in episode 7 because that conversation opened a door that we cannot just walk past. In episode 7, we talked about what happens when your growth threatens the room. We talked about the discomfort that shows up when you begin to speak with more clarity, carry yourself with more confidence, and recognize that what used to fit your life no longer fits the woman you're becoming. Today, I want to go deeper because after you realize your growth made the room uncomfortable, another question starts to rise, ladies. It is not only why did they respond that way? The deeper question is, what did the room make me feel or believe about myself? That is where the healing begins. It is one thing to recognize that a room could not handle your growth, but it's another to admit that while you were in that room, you slowly began questioning your own voice. We're not going to do that. It probably did not happen in one dramatic moment. It may have happened through a series of small dismissals, delayed responses, awkward silences, or conversations where you walked away feeling like the concern you raised somehow made you the problem. And over time, that kind of room can make you careful in ways that you do not feel like you anymore. Let me say that again. And over time, that kind of room can make you careful in ways that do not feel like you anymore. You start holding back, not because you have nothing to say, but because the cost of speaking has become too heavy for you. That is why today's episode is called The Room Was Too Small. This title is not about ego. It is not about looking down on anyone. Actually, it's the opposite. It's about recognizing that some environments do not have the capacity to hold the fullness of who you are becoming. They can use your work, appreciate your effort, and benefit from your consistency while still resisting the leadership, clarity, and wisdom growing inside of you. And when a room is too small, it rarely tells the truth about itself. It usually makes you feel like the issue is you. Isn't that funny? That is the part I want to sit with today, because I know there is a woman listening who has been in a room, a workplace, a relationship, a family system, a group, a ministry, a business circle, or even an old version of her own life where she kept trying to fit. She kept trying to communicate better. She kept trying to make herself more understandable, more acceptable, more patient, more polished, more careful. And at some point, she began to wonder, is it me? Because we do that sometimes when, we question ourselves and we question other people. Is it me? That question can be heavy and it can follow you home. It can sit right next to you in the car. It can even show up while you're washing dishes, trying to sleep, or getting ready for the next day. You replay the conversation. You go over your own tone. You think about what you said and what you should have said. You wonder if you gave too much information or not enough. You wonder if you were too direct or too quiet. You wonder if you were trying to lead or if they thought you were trying to take over. And when you are a woman who cares about doing things right, you do not brush those questions off easily. You examine yourself. You try to be fair. You look for the lesson. And you even ask God to show you your part. That is healthy. A woman who is really growing should be willing to reflect. She should be mature enough to ask, where can I improve? She should be able to hear correction from trusted voices and learn how to carry her strength with her wisdom. I believe that. I do not want us walking around. Let me start that again. I do not want us walking around acting like every time someone resists us, they are automatically wrong and we are automatically right. That is not growth. That is pride dressed up as confidence. But there's a difference between honest reflection and taking responsibility for a room's limitations. Honest reflection helps you mature. Self-blame makes you shrink. Honest reflection allows you to say, I could have handled that better without deciding I should not have spoken at all. Self-blame takes the discomfort of the room and turns it into a verdict over your identity. That is where many strong women get stuck. They are not committed to being fair that they become unfair to themselves. They are so willing to examine their own behavior that they forget to examine the environment. They ask, what did I do wrong? Before they ask, was this room willing to receive the truth? That question matters because there are rooms where truth is not welcome unless it is convenient. Sound familiar? There are rooms where leadership is celebrated only when it does not challenge the people in charge. There are rooms where your work is valued, but your wisdom is treated like a problem. And there are rooms where the appearance of order matters more than the health of the people inside of it. And if you have ever been in a room like that, you know how confusing it could be. You are not trying to create conflict. You are trying to improve something. You're not speaking just to hear yourself talk. You are bringing forward what you see because you care. You are looking at the process, the people impacted, the gaps, the missed opportunities, the patterns that keep repeating, and something in you says, this could be better. But instead of curiosity, you are met with resistance. Instead of a real conversation, you get a polished answer that goes nowhere. Instead of action, you get delay. Instead of accountability, you get a response that sounds professional enough to quiet the moment, but empty enough to avoid the work. And after a while, that wears on you. It wears on your confidence, it wears on your trust, and it wears on the part of you that believed change was possible. Boy, do I know that feeling. And here's what makes it even harder. When you care about the mission, the work, or the people affected by that work, it is not easy to walk away emotionally. You want the room to become better. You want leadership to listen. You want the system to improve. You want people to do the right thing for the right reasons. It's just that simple. You may even lower your own need for recognition and say, I do not need the credit. I just want the thing to be done. That is a pure kind of desire. It comes from wanting better, not from wanting applause. But a small room can still feel threatened by that because your idea, even when offered with humility, may expose what they have been ignoring. Your clarity may reveal their annoyance. Your leadership may bring light to their lack of movement. Your concern may require them to admit that something has been broken for a long time. And if the room is more committed to protecting itself than transforming itself, your voice will not feel like help to them. It will feel like a threat. That is painful to accept. especially when you know your heart. You know you were not trying to embarrass anybody. You know you were not trying to overpower the room. You know you were not speaking from arrogance. You were trying to offer something useful. You were trying to serve the purpose, not the ego. They didn't know the difference. But a room without capacity does not always know how to tell the difference. It may misread your passion as pressure. It may misread your standards as criticism. It may misread your vision as disruption. It may misread your leadership as a challenge to authority. And if you keep receiving those misreadings long enough, it can begin to affect how you see yourself. This is the part we need to heal, because the room may have misread you, but you do not have to keep living by its translation. You do not have to carry a label that came from someone else's discomfort. You do not have to agree with a definition created in a room that lacked the courage to grow. There are people who will call you difficult when what they really mean is that you were no longer easy to control. I gotta say that again. There are people who will call you difficult when what they really mean is that you were no longer easy to control. There were people who will call you too much when what they really mean is that your fullness made them uncomfortable. And there are people who will call you negative when what they really want to say is that you notice what they preferred to ignore. There are people who will call you intimidating when what they really mean is that they did not know how to stand securely beside a woman who knew what she carried. You have to be careful about whose words become your mirror. Every opinion does not deserve that kind of power. Every room does not have the authority to name you. And every place that dismisses you does not get to define the gift inside you. This is where I want you to breathe for a moment, because I know this may touch something. You may have left the room, but the room may still be speaking in your head. It may show up when you are about to share an idea and suddenly you pull back. It may show up when you are invited into a new opportunity, but you wonder if you really belong there. It may show up when you want to speak, but you edit your words down so much that the truth loses its shape. It may show up when you sense God calling you to do something larger, but a voice inside of you whispers, "Remember what happened last time?" That is residual, and residual needs healing. You can leave an environment physically and still carry the emotional posture it trained into you. Your body may no longer be in that room, but your nervous system still expects the dismissal. Your mind still prepares the defense. Your heart still embraces for impact. That does not mean you are broken. It means you are human. It means you went through something that taught you to protect yourself. And now, in this next season, you have to let God show you which protections are still wisdom and which ones have become walls. Because every guarded place in you is not wrong. Some caution is healthy. Some boundaries are necessary. Some lessons were expensive, and you should not pretend you did not learn them. But there is a difference between discernment and fear. Discernment pays attention. Fear assumes the ending before the story begins. Discernment lets you watch the fruit. Fear makes you close the door before anyone knocks. Discernment says, "I will move wisely." Fear says, "I will not move at all." And for the woman who has been hurt by a small room, that distinction is everything. Because the goal is not to become unavailable. The goal is to become rooted. Rooted enough to trust what God placed inside of you. Rooted enough to enter new rooms without bringing the old room's fear with you. Rooted enough to recognize capacity when you see it. Rooted enough to stop begging places without capacity to become your confirmation. That is mature healing. It does not deny what happened. It simply refuses to let what happened become the measure of every future room. Now, I want to go back to the title, The Room Was Too Small. That sentence has layers. At first, it may sound like relief. You may hear it and think, yes, that is exactly what it was. But after the relief comes grief. Because if the room was too small, that means you may have spent years trying to fit into something that could never fully hold you. Oof, that's deep. It means you have poured your energy, your ideas, your loyalty, your care, and your excellence into a place that did not know what to do with the fullness of who you were becoming. Ooh, wow, that's a lot. And that hurts. It hurts to realize your effort did not create capacity in other people. It hurts to realize that your patience did not make the room wiser. It hurts to realize that your hope did not change the culture. It hurts to realize that the people who could have made things better chose comfort instead. And I want to give you permission to grieve that without turning it into shame. Because sometimes when we finally see the truth, we turn around and attack ourselves. Let me say that over again. Because sometimes when we finally see the truth, we turn around and attack ourselves. Why did I stay so long? Why did I keep trying? Why did I keep hoping? Why didn't I see it sooner? But hope is not stupidity, ladies. Care is not weakness. Patience is not foolishness. The fact that you gave people time to grow says something about your heart. The fact that you believed better was possible says something about your values. The fact that you tried to help before you walked away says something about your integrity. So do not let hindsight make you cruel to the version of you who was doing her best with the clarity she had at that time. She did not know everything you know now. She was still hoping. She was still trying. She still believed the room could stretch. Now you know differently. And now you know differently. The invitation is not to beat yourself up. The invitation is to move differently. That is where healing begins to turn into wisdom. Wisdom says, I can honor the woman who tried, and I can still choose not to keep trying in the same place. Wisdom says, I can acknowledge what that season taught me without returning to what drained me. Wisdom says, I can be grateful for the lessons and still admit the room had limits. That kind of wisdom will keep your heart from hardening because bitterness is sneaky. And that brings me to the scripture for today. Isaiah 54:2 says, Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Lengthen your stakes. That scripture is powerful for this episode because it speaks to expansion, but it does not ignore stability. It says, enlarge the place of your tent. Make room. Stretch wide. Do not hold back. There is movement in that scripture. There is strength in it. There is growth in it. There is a sense that what used to be enough space will not be enough for what is coming next. But when the scripture says, strengthen your stakes, that part matters. God is not asking you to expand in a scattered, reckless, frantic way. He is not asking you to run from one room into another just because you are tired. He is not asking you to confuse motion with obedience. He is saying there is a kind of expansion that requires grounding. There is a kind of growth that needs deeper roots. There is a kind of next season that will stretch you and strengthen you at the same time. That speaks to me. Because when the room has been too small, the first instinct may be to run. You want out. You want relief. You want distance from the place that made you question yourself. And sometimes distance is needed. But after the distance, God still has to do the deeper work. He has to strengthen your stakes. He has to steady your identity. He has to heal your voice. He has to teach you how to carry your gift without apology and without arrogance. He has to show you how to recognize the difference between a room that challenges you in a healthy way, and a room that diminishes you. He has to help you expand without becoming bitter. That is the work. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, leave me a review, and share it with a woman who is rising or someone in your life who needs it. Follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and if you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next on Rosie, Rooted and Rising. Until next time, sis y hermana, stay rooted, stay blessed, and keep rising. New episodes every Monday morning.